Hello everybody and welcome back to the labs. I am Tousty and today we are going to be doing a module spotlight on Applied Energistics 2. Today we're going to be looking at specifically the networking and storage capabilities of AE2. So let's begin. If you come over here you'll see that I have set up an energy cell with an energy acceptor and a creative energy cell from thermal expansion. These two blocks are part of Applied Energistics. The energy acceptor is necessary to bring in power from any other mod. Applied Energistics 2 is written in such a way that it can accept power from many different power generating mods. It will take RF, EU, watts, it'll take UE power from universal electricity, along with others that I have probably left out. So for the sake of today, we are going to need some power, and instead of having a lot of vibration chambers, which are power generation from Applied Energistics set up to create this power, I've decided just to do this for the sake of our mod spotlight. So as you begin to play with Applied Energistics 2, you may notice that there are quite a lot of things you need to begin. We went over some of these in the Applied Energistics 2 The Basics Module Spotlight, and now we're going to look at what's needed to do some networking. The whole mod is built around creating small networks. These networks serve to store items and automate processes with items. We have created a module spotlight for the auto crafting system that is in this mod, and we have done a spotlight on the basics. So now we're going to look at how all of this works. To begin, you're going to need to make sure you have some glass, a good amount of quartz, both Certus and Nether, and probably a charger from Applied Energistics 2 at the very least. You're also going to want to find the inscriber that we showed last time with all of the inscribing plates that you need that you find in the meteors as part of the world gen of this mod. Once you have all that, you're pretty much set to do whatever you need in Applied Energistics 2. All you really need to do is continue to hunt for some resources. So let's begin. The first thing that you're going to want to know is Applied Energistics 2 has several different kinds of cables to create small and large networks. The most basic of which is these ME glass cable-Fluix. These are your main cables. They are the ones that have a recipe that does not contain a die of any sort. But they can be used pretty much for anything in the mod, but they are the most basic functioning one. You can never tell how many channels are being used or disconnect them from other kinds of cables, and this will all make sense in a few minutes, but these are the basic cables. So if you're looking for the recipe, because if you look up cable, you'll see that there are quite a few from Applied Energistics 2. From here to here is all AE2 cabling. The recipe that you're going to want to start with is this one, the ME glass cable. These Fluix cables can be used to connect pretty much any of the Applied Energistics 2 blocks together to create a network or to transfer power. And that goes for all AE cables. They will transfer power to other AE blocks and across their network as well as information. As you begin to work, you may find that you want different networks close to each other. For that, the mod author has given us different colors of cable. If I put these two together, you'll notice that the purple and the black cable connect to each other fine. However, the green cable will only connect to the glass purple clear Fluix cable. So, if you wanted to create networks separately from each other, but that run next to each other, you're going to need different color cable, and that's why there are different colors. They won't connect to each other unless you give them the purple Fluix ones. These can be used to link different color cables together as well as separate or bring networks into one main function. Now, as you continue to grow, you may find that some of the stuff in your network just isn't working, and we're going to go over all of that. However, if you are familiar at all with Applied Energistics 1, you may think that I am missing something. In AE1, all of your networks were based around having something called an ME controller. Now, this ME controller is a thing in AE2, however, it is no longer necessary for the basic networks. Now, you may be wondering what the networks are used for. Primarily, Applied Energistics 2 is about the storage and manipulation of items within the game. So, I'm going to create a small network to show you how this works. Here I have put down an ME chest from Applied Energistics. This block has two interfaces really. If you click on the top, you can see that it's trying to do something, but it says we do not have a storage cell. If you click on the side face, any of the sides, you will find that it gives you a slot for something. So what you're going to do is you're going to need to make yourself a storage disk in order to use one of these chests. AE2 has 4 different kinds of storage disks and then a blank sort of slate one. The storage disks are made with a storage component, and they come in varying sizes and colors. Basically, what Applied Energistics 2 does is it converts all items in the game into a size of data. The data is then stored on these disks instead of just in the chest. So if you can imagine it like a CD or a storage disk for your computer that stores information, this works the same way. You need networking infrastructure, cables or solder of some sort, to get information from the storage device to somewhere else where you want to work with it. AE2 is very, very similar. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a storage cell. I have some here that I have got some items on, and we're going to throw it inside of this chest. Okay, so you see that there is now a disk in there. If we right click on the top, we will see that though our disk says it has items, we cannot seem to access them. That's because it needs power. So this chest not only needs, oh, I don't want that to connect there. I want that to connect to our energy cell. Not only does it need a disk, it needs power. And now if I open this up, you can see everything that's on the disk. So this is a really neat way of storing items in the game. You'll see if I count here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 types of items going across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or 5 going down plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 42 types of items. A chest is one type, grass is another. That's what it means by type. This storage disk holds 42 types out of 63 types. Most of the time you'll find in Applied Energistics 2, as you begin to store items, you will run out of space in types before you run out of space in amount of items. If you look at this, you can see some of the stacks are much, much bigger than the traditional 64 size. Here we have 294 pieces of dark oak wood, 997 pieces of iron ore, much, much, much bigger than the traditional 64 stack of items. So the way that Applied Energistics stores items is in bytes and types. The more you put in of one type of item, so the more iron ore I put in, the more bytes it takes up. However, I can never take these and move them over to try and create a second type. It will always be one type of iron. So you'll see that that's probably why, especially with these larger disks, you fill up on types before you do on bytes, because the items don't take up that much space normally. So this is a great way of storing your stuff, and if you ever feel like moving, you can just take your disk out and walk somewhere else with it. And let's go over here and see if we can plop it in our system. I've got another storage type item here. If I put it in here, now all of the items that were on that disk are part of this network. And this all may look a little daunting at first, but it's all quite simple. It just takes a bit to get your head around. So this here is kind of like a server housing for hard drives. You could put several disks, 10 disks go in this ME drive is what it's called. Once in there, you need a way of looking at the items in it. Just sticking a disk in here is not that helpful for us. We want to be able to access our items, right? Well, that's where these terminals come into play. You can see here we have an ME crafting terminal and an ME pattern terminal. There are other types of terminals in the game. Probably the one you'll use the most is the crafting terminal, but you want to start with an ME terminal. That is the basic piece in all of these crafting recipes. You'll see that the pattern terminal is just a processor with a crafting terminal, and the crafting terminal is a ME terminal with some crafting table and a processor. So the first one you're going to use is usually the ME terminal. If I stick this disk on here, or this cable on here, and put my ME terminal up, I'll show you what it looks like. Now I can see all the items on that disk. If I added more, these are all blank right now, but if I did decide to throw these in here, it would also show me all of the items on all of those in a continuous list. Sorry. So that's the idea. ME storage disks will store items, and they will let you work with them from either a terminal or a chest. That is the basics of the ME networking. Before we go though, we'll go over a couple of the more necessary things to know as well. So eventually you may find that your storage or your network is having some problems. It might be getting some hiccups. It might not be loading what you're using, or the items connected to it might not be functioning properly. And that may be because you are out of channels. Your network really only has a certain amount of bandwidth that it can transfer through a cable. So for that, we have a couple different kinds of cables. Right now, if you look, you can see I have some ME Smart cable. This is merely the Fluix Smart cable, which if you're looking for the base component in the crafting recipes, it's always the Fluix kind of cable, which is just some covered cable with some redstone and some glowstone. Not a whole lot required for that. Covered cable is just ME cable and wool, any color. Once you have some smart cable, which I highly recommend you try and use in as much of your network as possible, things begin to get very, very interesting. So I'm going to put some, this is the wrong one, some smart cable down now instead of just my regular Fluix cable. Here we go. So this cable is great. It has a beautiful texture and it serves a very, very cool function. So I'm going to set up a little network like I had over there and just showed you. I'm going to take my ME drive, put it in here, and load my disks up. There we go. This is now full. And then on top of that, I'm going to put another cable and my ME terminal. Bam. So everything is happy. Whatever color cable you have is what color the terminal will look like. So if I take these off and I put my pink cable here and then the terminal, you can see I have a pink terminal. So that's why I have a green one, even though it does not look like it. Oh, where'd my terminal go? Even though it doesn't look like it when you see it in, there we go, in my inventory. So I'm going to put this back. So right now, what's happening is all of the information in this network is going through this line. And eventually, it's also going through this block. This is what I was talking about earlier, how all of the blocks, or most of the blocks in Applied Energistics, will in fact transfer the network signal, both in power and in network information. So that's what's happening here. We have some power coming out of our energy acceptor, moving its way down through here, into this ME drive, out and across and up to here where I have nothing else. So let's get something going on. First thing you may notice is that if I take this terminal off, one of the lines on this seems to go away. The texture changes. And yes, I am using a resource pack, but this is the same in all of the resource packs because of the way he has done these textures. So you'll see that there are lots of little lines in the middle here. This is not because of the resource pack. This is how he has designed it. If I put this terminal back on, there are now 2 lines lit up. These lines represent channels. This is like your network bandwidth. Eventually, if you fill up on them, the next things you connect will not have room to connect to your network. It's like it's running out of IP addresses, essentially. Without an ME controller, you can have only a limited amount of stuff going on, and I believe it is 8. If you have 8 things connected, eventually, let's get some more terminals here, stuff will stop working. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, you'll see that the cables have shut off. That's because we have overloaded our network. So let's take this off. Still too much, so it looks like it's actually less than 8. It does appear that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, there are 8, sorry, it is 8, I forgot about the drive. There are 8 things on this network right now, and that is maximum. I can no longer connect anything else to the network and have it function because I am out of bandwidth. This cable is all lit up. And that's not good. That's where the ME controller comes into play in AE2. Let me just pick some of these up. If you want to use a bigger network, you have to have an ME controller on it somewhere. It does not matter where, it just needs to be connected. Now, for the sake of our network, I'm going to put it right here. It's a good idea to have it not necessarily right next to any of the blocks. Because now what you'll find is I don't have just 8 channels I can use. I have 8 channels per face of the ME controller. So I have 8 going up that way. I have 8 coming up this way. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and just fill those spots up with these controllers, or sorry, with these terminals. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everything is okay. But if I put another one on here, you can see that this guy over here, because it's the farthest from the terminal, it says device missing channel in my WAILA in the bottom right. Alright, if I click on it, I can't access anything, but if I come right beside it, it's fine. That's because it was overloaded. So I know if I have 8 on here, see, now this is fine, it's all lit up. Good to go. If I put another one here, it will still work, because you get 8 channels per side of the ME controller. Now, you may be saying that's just not that many. If you know a lot about the mod, there is so much you can do with these cables and connecting stuff to them. 8 is not that many. That is where the dense cables come into play. These dense cables are merely bigger versions of the smart cables. They are created using the dense fluix cables, which is 4 covered cables with a redstone and a glowstone. So these get a little bit more pricey. Now these obviously are much, much thicker in nature. They carry 16 channels across one cable. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks here, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Should leave me okay. So let's do this. Let's see how many of these I can get on there before they start not working. We see the colored lines begin to populate. Boom. Okay. So we're looking here, and it looks like this is fairly full. It may be that I can actually get 32, but I'm pretty sure it's only 16. Let's try it, shall we? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll do 1, 2. Well, yeah. You may find that your terminals and your different facade blocks can't always connect to the dense cables. You need the smart cables for that. So let's try it and let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's run back down here and see how many are coming through. They're getting more full. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I put 2 down there for some reason. Alright, still more room it looks like. But, oh no, we have in fact peaked out. At least we peaked out this smart cable across the top. I'm going to run another one here and see what happens. Still nothing. Looks like we might be at an end for our dense cable. So this one can carry quite a few more channels. You'll see that all of the terminals across here are lit up right up until this point. That is when we max out our dense cable. You come over here and you see that it is using quite a few channels. I'm really hopeful one day WAILA will tell you exactly how many are used out of how many, but these smart and dense cables are quite helpful. Alright, so you figured out cabling, you figured out networking, you can store stuff easy enough. You just got to build a drive and stick it in an ME chest or an ME drive, as long as it is a storage drive of one size or the other. You know that if your network begins to get too complicated with too much stuff, you're going to need an ME controller. So what now? What do you do with all this? Well, one thing you can do is set up an auto crafting system to make items from recipes for you and to process your minerals and materials and different things. That's what we have set up over here, and you can see that in our auto crafting AE2 Module Spotlight. But for now, I will show you very quickly a couple of the items that can be used on these networks. So if I throw down some cable here just to be able to put stuff on it, you have several different buses. You have a storage bus, you have an import bus, and you have an export bus. We will go over the others later in a different video. The storage bus takes any kind of regular storage, such as a chest, a non-ME chest, and allows the items that are in it to be seen as part of your network. So if I go ahead and I grab here, let's get some sandstone and some chiseled sandstone and some gold ore, and oh, that's probably a bad example. There's already gold ore in my system. Let's get some brown stained glass and some purple stained glass. Let's do this, shall we? Put all of this in the chest. I come over here, I should be able to now see, there's my sandstone, there's some of my stained glass. Everything that's in this chest is part of the network. If I were to pull it out of the terminal, it would in fact pull it out of this chest. And if I give this storage bus a priority, which is what this button is, and it's the same function on the ME drive and the ME chests, it would then pick where to put items. So if I say this is a +10 priority, and I decide to go over here and throw in some chiseled stone bricks, because that is the highest priority on my network, the items will get stored here instead of in here. That's what the priority function is for on all of the different devices. Then you have the import bus and the export bus. The import bus will pull items from an inventory into your ME network, and the export bus will push items from an inventory into an ME network. That is the basics of ME networking and storage. Next time, we're going to do another module spotlight on the advanced functions of the different buses, of peer-to-peer networks, and of these crystal growth accelerators and how they fit in to your ME crafting scheme. Until then, I have been Tousty. You have been watching Infinity Labs, and please leave any comments if you have any questions below or anything that you care to add. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.